Welcome back to the From Moses to Mookie podcast. If you've been listening, you know that we've been talking about Major League Baseball's black population and several reasons for its decline. I gave one of these reasons as community investment, and that Major League Baseball has not invested in black communities the same way that organizations like the Negro Leagues had back in the 1920s and 50s when this popularity was on the rise. I also said that logistically there are some issues with baseball. It costs a lot to pay for the equipment. It costs a lot to play showcase baseball. And even if you are successful at showcase baseball and you earn yourself a spot on a Division I roster, there are only 11.7 scholarships available to players. And really, if you're going to invest that much money in the equipment and in showcase baseball, you're better off choosing a sport that will reward you with an educational scholarship. It's just not possible to support its student athletes financially. There's also several unwritten rules that make the sport unappealing because if you celebrate too much, you might risk injury because somebody else might get mad and throw a ball at you at 90 miles an hour. You also see that communities may not be able to find the space for baseball. It takes about 130,000 square feet to support a baseball field without stands or dugouts, whereas it only takes 4,700 square feet for a regulation basketball court. So, again, communities are investing in that more than they are in baseball. You also see that Latin American talent has really flooded the United States with Major League Baseball, and that teams are able to acquire better talent at a lower price, and in doing so, they shift their focus entirely to recruiting that talent, and then a lot less so on domestic talent, especially those that are African American. So I think that there are several reasons again for that decline, but I think that more importantly there are several solutions. There's more than one way to skin this cat. Okay, is it possible that baseball could become less expensive? It's possible. I don't think that travel baseball is going anywhere anytime soon. That's not been the trend. In fact, it only seems to be growing unless Major League Baseball steps in to say something, and I doubt that it will because it makes money off of it as well. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think that it will push for the educational opportunity, although I think a lot of people who do play baseball are. I also don't think that they're going to get too invested initially in the black community. It just hasn't been the trend. They leave it up to the players mostly, and even though they should, they generally have not gotten into those communities. I think that so long as you can acquire Latin American talent at a cheap price, they're going to continue to do so. So I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. So really, what kind of solutions are left? I think it really just relies on a prioritization of getting back into the community. I think that is the most important aspect of this that an entire a group like the MLB can have, is getting involved in local areas. Where teams are, where teams are not, I think that you really need Major League Baseball to step up and say, we need to support this area. Where its minor league teams are, where its major league teams are, there are kids in that area who are wanting to have a voice, especially African American kids who are interested in baseball because, again, as I've said before, nothing about baseball favors white people or Latin Americans over black people. There is nothing about the sport that is racialized, and black kids have just as much of a chance to succeed in baseball as white kids or Latino kids. So they need to invest, and specifically need to invest in youth development, because if the kids don't enjoy playing it when they're 6, they're not going to enjoy watching it when they're 60. That's just typically the case. So if you're able to get into these communities and you're able to invest, and you're not only able to get into schools and into businesses, but you're able to invest in the development of young players, I think you will see a lot more players become more interested in baseball, and I think that they will possibly prefer to play baseball over basketball, play baseball over football. I think that in that case, it could really grow, especially in these urban areas. There needs to be a way to get baseball to these kids, even in ways that maybe are a little more unconventional. Maybe it's not organized baseball. Maybe it's in stickball. Maybe it's in something else where kids can just really begin to learn and to love the game. And hopefully, eventually, there will be some way to better afford playing travel baseball, organized baseball, showcase baseball, and that eventually the NCAA will extend its scholarships to support more student athletes. I think beyond that, these athletes need to be drafted and they need to be developed in good programs. I think that Black athletes need to be drafted in higher rounds, especially those that are from underdeveloped areas. I think a lot of the African-American kids we are seeing get drafted now, most notably Hunter Green a couple years ago, most of those kids come from families that are not underprivileged. They have they have economic wealth in their family. I think it's time that we give these kids from the inner cities a shot, and we really invest in their development as well, not just in suburbs surrounding them or at private schools or anything like that. It's important that we get kids in inner cities to be incredibly talented, because I think that those voices mean a lot, and right now they're not being heard. On that note, I think that it's important that we have black managers, we have black coaches on these coaching staffs. Right now, Dave Roberts of the Dodgers is the only black manager in baseball. It's very difficult to make your voice heard when you're the only one at the table. Very difficult. And having a black person who is able to oversee the development of other black players, of other white players, of other Latino players, gives another voice in the room and helps people understand the importance of racial identity in society today, not just in baseball, but just in general. To see African Americans and just in general people of color and diversity in a leadership group is incredibly valuable, because you are making the voices of those beneath that leadership group heard even more. The final point, and this related to it, is that we need to go a step further and have more black owners, have more black front office staff. Those are the ones that really make the decisions. The managers can write the lineup cards and decide who plays on what day, but owners and front office staff decide on the long-term goals of an organization and of the league itself. Without diversity in that group, it's going to be very difficult to increase the diversity of the players. It's going to be very difficult to bring the black population back up from its very, very low point right now. Right now, I think Derek Jeter is one of the only owners in the league who is African American. And the same thing with Dave Roberts. It's very hard to be in a room and have your decision matter and have your opinion and your voice be heard whenever you are the only one from your identity that is sitting at the table. So, and Rob Manfred understands this. In a recent interview on Jackie Robinson Day, actually, with Sunday Night Baseball, he mentioned how he was wanting to diversify his ownership pool, and that when they search for new owners, they want to be sure that it is diverse and they're not just repeating the voices of one. So that's actually a fantastic effort. And I was very encouraged by that from Commissioner Manfred. I think that in general, Commissioner Manfred's opinions seem to be shared by more people. I think that more people in positions of leadership, because again, Commissioner Manfred is in charge of the league, but he is not the one who makes every decision. That goes down to the owners, and more owners need to have that kind of mindset as well, to where they need to make it more diverse, make more voices be heard, be able to benefit more people than just the ones who are sitting at the table. So those are just some solutions. And again, it's not going to be a quick fix. Not at all. But it's important, because America's pastime is baseball. It's not basketball. It's not football. Those might dominate the ratings and the television ratings, but people love baseball. People love playing baseball as kids. And if they love the game, then they will continue to love the game throughout the rest of their lives. And so it's important that we include African Americans at the table when it comes to baseball. We can't just let an entire demographic choose other sports as opposed to baseball, because if baseball fans, if baseball coaches eventually do that, then how will black players' voices be heard? They just simply won't. So that's my final message, is just continue to search for diversity in every single sport, but especially baseball, in a sport that's struggling so badly with it. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, hope you've learned a little bit, and I hope you are inspired a little bit to make a little bit of a difference. This has been the From Moses to Mookie podcast. Thank you so much for listening.